Welcome to the Unschooling the Mind podcast. We have an episode for you today. This information is something that has been hidden from us for a very, very long time. I've done a lot of research on it, and I thought it was too important not to share with the public, although most of the public will just dismiss it immediately, which is fine because this podcast is really for people who are awake and aware to the shifts that are going on the planet and to the fact that we have been lied to by the institutions and systems which have raised us to keep us sick, weak, and dependent. So I had the pleasure of interviewing a vaccine-injured mama of 3 who has cured herself with her own perfect medicine. Yes, you might have been hearing about this lately, urine therapy. It is a topic now that is coming to the forefront. And I thought this woman has cured herself from a debilitating vaccine injury. And this is too important not to share. So please stay with an open heart. Enjoy the episode, and you can see resources for your own research in the show notes. All right. Welcome to another episode of the Unschooling the Mind podcast and community private Q&A. I'm so excited about this one. This is amazing to meet you, Josephine. We started talking, I don't know, a few weeks ago. You're a little hard to get a hold of at first, like we all are. We're so busy. But how I found you was that I was just doing some digging. I started to research and hear grumblings about urine therapy really saving people's lives. I actually have a client in the UK. And just in case this goes on YouTube, I'm going to say this isn't medical advice. This is for entertainment purposes, we'll call it, so that YouTube doesn't censor us. But because it's very hard to find information on this. But I had a client in the UK who told me that they cured themselves of 4-stage cancer. And the biggest component of their healing was urine therapy. And she sent me the book from John Armstrong called The Water of Life. And it sat on my table for a year. I looked at it and I was like, oh, no, I'm not looking at that, right? So I have huge empathy for people just kind of waking up and receiving this information because I too was, put off by the entire notion about anything to do with urine because, as you know, we've been conditioned through, the indoctrination camps in society and our parents, and that this is bad, wash your hands, this is toxic, stay away from urine, knowing nothing. And there's a huge portion after a lot of research that I've done that shows that there's been information suppressed and hidden from us, that this is actually an ancient practice. So I don't know what prompted me to read the book, but I did. And then I ordered every other book I could find about it. And then I looked for every podcast. I looked for every piece of information. I had somebody, because I've always been into fasting, and I was doing water fasts, and I've been using MMS for some time and dabbling with that for a few years. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's chlorine dioxide. And so I was like, okay, this seems like next level, because after you read John Armstrong's book, you're like, oh my gosh, all these people were healed. And I don't know about you, we'll get into it, but I found that back in the 1920s, he's literally talking about what we're experiencing today. Like when they made it illegal to say, any lay person could not say that they cured cancer. And the allopathic medicine was taking over. And he would say, I healed these people were healed. And they'd go back to the doctors, and the doctors would say, well, that couldn't have been what it is. Like just completely dismissing any of his work, the thousands of patients that he cured. So very fascinating. And then I fell onto you. And you were like this big, bright, shining light of courage and just a set of balls on you. And I was like, I got to meet this mama, because here you are. And I know you don't like to say vaccine injured because there's a whole thing, and we can talk about that in the community. But you were, in fact, injured, and you've cured yourself. And what a story. but more importantly, the courage that you have to share it. And I thought to myself, this is it. Like, this is it. This is what God is calling us to do, is to have the brave ones come together and speak. And you're it. So thank you so much for joining us. And for those of you who are just hearing about urine therapy for the first time, please, put your hand on your heart and take a deep breath and understand how vulnerable it is for people to come out and speak about this. And it can almost be borderline abusive when people who are speaking truth have to actually deal with your judgment energetically and comments and all of the things. And I certainly know that from being someone who came out very early on with the schmovid narrative. But I know what it would be like for you as well, Josephine. And you can share a little bit about that. So people who are just hearing about this for the first time, ask for an open mind, put all your assumptions aside. This is for the benefit of humanity. It's for the benefit of humanity that not only I've connected with her, but that I'm actually sharing this publicly as well, and not just keeping it inside of our private member association, because it could help a lot of people. So Josephine, welcome, and thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a very wild journey over the last 3 years, that's for sure. And it's kind of surreal. Like, it doesn't even feel like the first 2 years of my suffering even happened now that I'm on the urine therapy for a year, and my body is more clearer. My brain is starting to heal and everything else. So I'm surprised that all this happened and I'm still standing. But here I am. This is like probably my 25th interview on my vaccine injury. And I'm just grateful that I have ways to talk, because for the first beginning of my injury, my loved ones thought that I was crazy. And I was alone it was only about 6 months, but to feel like you're shutting down and you're dying in front of your loved ones and you're crying out for help, and they just thought that it was all inside of your head. 6 months of that could do a lot of trauma to the brain. And so the physical part of me is healing, but the emotional part is going to take a long time.
And that's the emotion that is coming up for you right now, is just you're still feeling that kind of trauma that you've experienced from probably not just outsiders that you're speaking to when you're speaking publicly, but more the family is what would hurt, right?
And I still deal with it today, because my daughter's father, like, we've been broken up for 10 years or more, but he thinks that I'm a conspiracy theorist. He thinks that I wasn't vaccinated and injured or dealt with any of the things, because I looked normal on the outside, but they didn't feel the neuropathy. They didn't feel the blood pressure issues, the 50 or more symptoms that I struggled with on a day-to-day basis. And my daughter, she's 12. Me and her have a very estranged relationship now over the last few years, because of my vaccine injury and because of my views on the vaccines and what's been going on in the world. And then with the urine therapy, she's just, a kid, but still, like, my other two boys, they understand because they live with me full time. But it's just, I'm still dealing with that on a day-to-day basis, right? So the physical part of me, the spiritual part of me is all healing and getting closer to myself and God and nature. But the emotional part is going to take a very long time. And when I do these interviews, sometimes that part of me needs to be released and it comes up. I don't normally cry very often anymore unless I talk about it, but I try not to go down that road of worrying about the past of what I went through, because I'm trying to take my pain and turn it into a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I keep my thoughts back there, I'm only going to suffer, and it's going to make me miserable. And I feel like this happened to me for a reason. And like you said, I have a lot of confidence. I won't stop talking about it. I do have bigger balls than most of the men around here, like, to speak it and not be afraid. Like, I'm very proud that I found urine therapy, to be honest. And it's been the most miraculous thing in my research of anything that I've ever researched in my entire life on anything. Urine therapy is still, I still don't understand 100% of it, but it is very beautiful. And I feel like a lot of people like need to know this because there's so many people in the vaccine injured community that are still suffering. I've had to distance myself from some friends because they constantly complain with their symptoms. No matter what advice I give them, they're still stuck in the allopathic way of thinking and doing. And I'm just going to focus myself on the energy of like people who are willing to hear this knowledge, because some people are not going to be saved, and that's their journey. And being an empath, I've had to come to realize that I have to focus on my journey. And instead of waking up my family, waking up my loved ones, and dealing with that type of energy, I need to take my energy with the time that I have left on earth for whatever amount of reason it is. I want to help other people. And this knowledge has been suppressed from us. And I think it's time for us to go back to the way that our ancestors used to live. And that's how I'm trying to live my life now for the last 3 years. And I just feel like everybody needs to know this.
Yeah, it's very true that truth cannot be told. It has to be discovered. So people have to be looking for it. People have to be willing to dig. They have to be receptive. It's like a frequency, it's like a radio channel that turns on, and then they're ready for the information. And so it's very true. I can see why you would have to distance yourself, because I understand that, even when talking about it, we've been talking about this for about 4 months now in our community, and people sharing their experiences of fasting and different things. And, even at first, just talking about it, there's like this angst and this feeling that you're going to be judged and, all of the things. And then, it's just, but once you realize that it's affecting that kind of change and saving people's lives, it's like it would be selfish to have that kind of information and not share it. Do you know what I mean? From my perspective. So it's amazing. So tell us a little bit about, for viewers who don't know, you're just hearing about this for the first time, like how your injury occurred and how it impacted your life, so they can get an understanding of what you were actually dealing with.
Okay, so June 18th, 2021, I had a little tiny, I don't know if you can see it, but it's a bruise.
Yeah.
And it was on my right thigh. And I turned the corner in my kitchen, hit the corner of the counter, dug it into my leg, had a bruise there. That was a month before my vaccine. When I got vaccinated, I came home 2 hours later and I realized that there was a severe burning sensation in that bruise on my leg. And it just spread from burning sensation to a crawling sensation, like there was bugs crawling on my legs all the time, tingling, pins and needles, throbbing and pulsating feeling, numbness. And then it spread to like my fingers and my feet. I had burning and pins and needles and severe like neuropathy issues. I've had like electrical shocks in my spine. I've had memory loss, stuttering with my words. I've had a leg tremor. My right leg, where the bruise was, shook. I don't know if you've seen the videos of the vaccinated and their injuries, but my leg was shaking like this for 40 minutes nonstop until I got into a hot bath. My intuition told me just get into the hot bath and calm down my nervous system. And it's a good thing I've been studying the human body since I was 7. Like, I'm a high school dropout, but human and like anatomy and biology has always been top interest to me ever since I was a little girl. I knew where babies came from. So I knew what to look for in my body when I was having all these symptoms. So I was able to connect it to, okay, well, it's my brain and it's my autonomic nervous system and it's my circulatory system. And then there's like all these things. But I've had like over 50 or more symptoms. My period got heavier, more painful. I've never had painful periods whatsoever ever since I was 12, never had them. I didn't have blood clots coming out when I had my period. I had
I had
like pulsating feeling in my head where like it felt like somebody was constantly squeezing my brain. Um, this arm is where I got injected. And I don't know if you've seen videos of the vaccinated where they had magnets on their arm, but I kept having this pulsating feeling and pain for 2 years straight. And then the pain will go down to my arm, into my fingertips, and kind of make it go numb and tingly. And that felt like it was like the beginning of a heart attack. I would have chest pains, heart palpitations nonstop. I was gasping for air. I still have some air problems, but that's just when I know that I need to have more urine. To be honest, I'll get down to that, like how my body is able to pick it up now. But for 2 years straight, I was gasping for air, air hunger. Just, I was a mess. I felt like a walking corpse. I wanted to commit suicide every second of the day. I was afraid of going to sleep because I knew people who had died in their sleep, kids like 17 years old, and I was petrified. I was afraid that like my blood pressure was going to drop because I have high blood pressure or low blood pressure, and I feel like I'm going to pass out sometimes. There's just been a whirlwind of symptoms that I've had to deal with, and I calculate, like I kept track of everything because my family doctor of 22 years, he gaslit me. I have lumps. Like, have you seen those like blood clots in people's legs, like where they're pulling it down? It's like all squishy and I can literally feel them in my legs, in the back of my thighs, in my shins, and in most of my skin. Actually, I could feel it all over the place. And I never had any of these. Like the only thing that I had before was a little bit of depression and anxiety. I never ever suffered with pins and needles and neuropathy issues, leg tremors, electrical shocks, internal vibration. I never felt any of this in my entire life. And yeah, nobody believed me. I was in a relationship and my partner, he didn't believe me. He ended up going and getting 2 shots, even though after I got injured from only one. My mom ended up getting a booster. She didn't really believe me at the beginning. She does now, because she's seen all the interviews and she's starting to see things and starting to awaken. Like he's now my ex, but now he's starting to see and stuff. But like at the beginning, they didn't believe me for the first 2 years. They just thought it was all inside of my head and I was crazy. I lost friends and I was alone for a long time because I knew something was wrong with me. And I went to my family doctor after my leg tremor. And I said, listen, I know there's something seriously wrong with me. I had a mental breakdown and I need to see a neurologist. I need to check my brain. I need to see what the hell's going on. Do I have MS? Do I have this? Like I had it narrowed down because I did a lot of research. I knew I was on my own. I knew that nobody was coming to help me. And even though I thought about suicide, I'm petrified of death, even though I know that, the spiritual side, I don't want to leave, right? I have 3 kids. I don't want to leave this place at this age. I'm only 35. And so I knew I had to do it myself. So I researched every day and every night, all day long. I spoke to so many vaccinated people who dealt with the same symptoms. I connected the dots and then I narrowed it down to either MS or Lyme's disease or dysautonomia, which they all have the same three of them have the same symptoms. It's like basically blood circulation issues and your brain and your autonomic nervous system is just like inflamed and dysfunctional and gone crazy. So you have like all these neuropathy issues and stuff. But I did everything. I tried 100 different ways. I cut out all synthetics, all cleaning products, shampoo products, toothpaste. I switched my clothes to cotton instead of polyester and spandex. Like I changed everything, and nothing seemed to take away my suffering because it still felt like I was shutting down every day until I watched a documentary. I learned about Jonathan Otto. I don't know if you know about him, but he's like one of the people that are trying to expose like COVID and the COVID vaccines and their plans for the future and what it's being done to us. And I watched a documentary and I learned about this lady, Gloria. And 6 months prior to watching this documentary, I kept having this thought about urine. And I tried every protocol, the FLCCC protocol, all the different remedies, the detoxes, the herbs, everything that I tried. But I don't know where I got this idea of urine therapy because I never heard it. I didn't research about it. I didn't learn. It's just, it was in my head constantly drilling me. And then I was like, okay, I watched the documentary. And then on the first episode, Gloria had told the world that she healed herself from 2 Pfizer shots with drinking her own urine. And I knew that that was my sign. And I knew that that was my, I'm a very spiritual person and I get signs and synchronicities. And at the beginning of my, like my vaccine injury, I didn't listen to my intuition. My intuition told me not to get the vaccine. I was kind of skeptical at first because I had heard rumors and stuff that it wasn't okay. And I wasn't afraid of the virus because I didn't believe there was any. I was afraid of the government and the laws because of my anxiety. I have PTSD. I've been in abusive relationships, all that stuff. So I thought that if I went to go visit my partner in Ontario, that if I came back to Newfoundland, then I would have to stay away from my kids for 2 weeks, or I would have to, like, if I didn't listen, I would be charged or fined some money. So I got the injection. I thought it was just a normal vaccine, like everything else. Like, we got my kids are all vaccinated. I'm vaccinated from childhood. And now looking back, now I understand why I grew up with a lot of mental issues, why my oldest has ADHD and has severe asthma growing up, why my youngest has ADHD and had a heart problem, and why my daughter has ADHD and has allergies. Now it all makes sense is because none of them are normal vaccines. They're all cocktail of poison, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought that it was just a normal thing. I was going to get it. Nothing was going to happen, just like all the other ones that I got in my childhood. And then my world just like crumbled beneath me. And I knew that when I met Gloria on that documentary, that was my sign, because my stepfather, he's been dead 10 years now. But ever since I got vaccinated and injured, I swear he's here and he's guiding me and he's helping me with giving me all this information and the people that I need on the right time for my journey. So I'm just listening to my intuition now. And then my brain was telling me urine therapy, and I didn't know where it was coming from until I watched a documentary. And sure enough, this is what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to be the messenger of urine therapy, because as soon as I went upstairs, I paused the episode. I only watched just a little bit of it. And I paused it and I went upstairs and I drank my own urine. Like, now, at first, I did plug my nose and I drank it and I rinsed out my mouth, because of the brainwashing. But as soon as I came downstairs, I had noticed that the pulsating feeling in my thigh had gone away right away. The gasping for air had gone away instantly, and I was able to breathe again. So I knew there was something to this, right? And then from then, June 17th of 2023, that was the first time. So almost 2 years to my vaccine injury date. And it's kind of ironic or beautiful. I don't know what the word is, but it's kind of cool how I suffered 2 long years. I did it all by myself. I researched everything. I became my own doctor, my own scientist, and experimenting on many different protocols. And then I found this modality that saved my life the day before my 2 year anniversary of being injured. I just thought it was kind of beautiful how it all planned out. Right. And now here I am a year later on urine therapy. And I've had so many people come to me and they've started urine therapy. They're either not vaccinated or injured, but they've had other health issues and they've seen improvements, or that they are vaccinated and injured and they've seen improvements now. And it's just, my family may not listen to me with what I talk about, but I found a purpose. And I hope that, like, by helping other people, it'll start showing my family that there is some truth to what I'm saying, and that it's, this is not some kind of disgusting thing. Like my daughter's father, he thinks I'm disgusting, but yet nobody realizes that every baby on this earth has drank their own pee in the mother's womb.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? We all have drank our own pee. It's just we're not aware of it. And that's how we are born, to be honest. We are born from the stem cells inside the amniotic fluid mixed in with the urine, and everything in that stack is like, I'm starting to realize that everything that comes out of our body is really not waste. There is some kind of purpose for it, to be honest. And that's the crazy thing about it. Like, I thought I understood the human body, but it's like so much to learn all the time.
Yeah, 100%. Well, we've definitely, like, purposely, information has been hidden from us. The ancestral lines of knowledge and wisdom have been broken over time. It seems like it takes about 3 to 4 generations. Nobody knows anything about anything anymore and teaches their kids anything. And everybody just believes that allopathic medicine has been the way. And it's really just been the last 200 years. Prior to that, when I started first digging into pharmaceuticals and understanding, like, they literally, like, when you think of what Valium is, for just an example, they literally take valerium, which is like a plant. They take the extract from it, then they add their petrochemicals to it so they can patent it, and then they sell it, and then they push out all the other industries or make them seem like they're witchcraft and voodoo to sell you the product that gives you the side effects. I mean, it's an absolute loop of actually making us sick and ill over time, and they own all the rights to do this. And over the brainwashing and them slowly infiltrating all industries through the school system and how we were taught, and just the Rockefeller medicine wheel. It's fascinating. So when I was researching this, I started researching, I'd say 10 years ago, when I was in our family business about dry cleaning. I started looking into the first launderer, and I was surprised to find that they used to use urine to clean fabrics. And they used to collect urine in the community. There was like buckets in different sides of the road, and they would collect them, and that's how they started cleaning clothes. So that was my first introduction to urine as a form of, a cleaner, that I was like completely surprised about.
And another
But
thing too about
mhm,
urine, what they used to do, like how, you know, they always take something natural, like you say, with the plants and all that stuff, but then they add their concoction of poisons in order to kind of combat that and kind of make you sick. Um, the first vaccine actually is derived from our urine. That's how they used to come up with the idea of vaccines, actually, is that they used to inject urine into the body. And that's
Wow.
where the idea from vaccines actually came from. And I believe that they still use urea in pharmaceuticals and beauty products
Mm-hmm.
all over the world because
Mm-hmm.
they know the benefits of urine,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then obviously they have to add in the petroleum base, and that's another revelation. Like my son, um, my oldest, he was the only one that was on medication for his ADHD because I saw what it did to him, and I didn't want to do it to my other two kids. It's just that it took a while to kind of wean him off of the drugs, but learning that all pharmaceuticals are petroleum based. No
Mm-hmm.
wonder when I was taking my antidepressants and my anxiety meds, I was horrible. Like I was better with just being depressed and anxious off the medication than I was when I was taking the medication because it just zombified me. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
cry. I had no feelings. I was numb. I was all like messed up with my thinking empty. And I'm glad that I learned that the pharmaceutical companies like all use petroleum based because I don't put like nothing in this house, like the cleaning products, the beauty products, everything. I make it all natural myself. I've learned like herbalism. I taught myself herbalism. That was actually the first thing that I started doing, to be honest, with my detoxing.
Mm-hmm.
March 4th, 2022 was the first time that I started to detox. And plants was the first thing that I learned because I remembered a meme that was on Facebook years ago that it said, there was a plant to cure every disease.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just struck me in my head. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to see what these plants actually do. And then I started researching it. And now I'm like a kitchen witch making up all these potions with like roses and dandelions and yarrow and stuff, making tea for me and my kids. And now I'm detoxing them from years of poison and like toxins that was inside of their body, right? So it's kind of cool to learn that, yeah, they do take something natural, but then of course they have to add in their evil potions to make us.
To patent it and then sell it
Yeah,
back to us. And so
yeah.
when I was researching more, I was realizing that I remember in university doing, and by the way, when you said high school dropout, I'm like, oh, God, you're lucky. Like, you have less undoing to do
Right?
than some of us, right? Good
Yeah.
for you.
But
And
I
look
was
at
a
you.
nerd though. I was a
Well,
big
totally.
nerd
But
back
that's the
then,
thing.
you
Of
know?
course, it's
Yeah.
not about school. That's the indoctrination. We are lifelong learners, no
Yeah.
matter what, right? We're always learning. It's a very natural state, right? So, um, but when I was researching more about this, in university, I did a paper, and I remember the paper I talked about Premarin, which was a hormonal replacement therapy, and it was about the paper was about like what they were doing to the horses or something like that. But anyway, it was about that there was horse urine in this. That was my second introduction to urine. Like they put horse urine into these pills. And so, in this last 6 months of doing really heavy duty research, you come to find that there's urea in so many things. Come to find that some of these companies actually take urine from underneath stadiums and urinals. And I don't know if there's a fee and what it is. And that's in Your Perfect Medicine by Martha. She talks about this. And then they take it, they distill it, they turn it around, they extract the urea, they put their stuff in it, and then they make, all these different things, and then they sell it back to us. And of course, it's hidden to us that we're actually the magic. We're the magic, right? We're the producers of the magic, and it's been hidden from us. So let's just be clear for people who are just listening to this because you're blowing people's minds away. Okay, so you're injured. Let's talk about what urine actually is, because it was unbeknownst to me that it's actually distilled, structured water first and foremost.
And it's negatively charged. So over in India, they actually did a like a science experiment where they took 1 liter of urine and powered 6.8 kilowatts of energy for a whole house. And so 1 liter of urine can produce so much energy. Imagine
Wow.
what so like you're just going to the toilet and you're just peeing it all out. And people are wondering why they have chronic fatigue, why they're so exhausted, why they're so tired, because you're literally wasting away your life force, because your urine is literally your life force of energy that is supposed to go back in like a feedback loop system. So it's the beginning of, homeopathy and how all that works. Well, they got homeopathy from how they used urine back in India, like thousands of years ago. And my ex, he's actually from India, and he was kind of like weirded out that I was there doing the urine therapy. And I was like, but it's from your country. Like, it's from your time. Like, you're from there. It's from your culture and everything. And he's still struggling now with 2 symptoms. And I can see that he's like having a lot of issues. I was like, well, just start urine therapy. No, I can't do that. I can't do that. It's like, but you don't know the benefits. Like, there's stem cells, there's all the vitamins and minerals that your body needs. It has all the enzymes that your body needs. It has amino acids. Um, it has adrenaline. It has pretty much over 5,000 different components are inside your urine. And at any given moment, like when you go to use the bathroom, that amount of urine is what your body is lacking at that moment. So when you put it back in, you are feeding back your body the way it's supposed to. And if you have, like, let's say, graphene oxide into your system, and that comes out into little fragments in your urine, when you put that in, as in homeopathy, the feedback loop system that happens, it'll go in, it's highly intelligent with its own consciousness, and it'll go in and find out different more particles of graphene oxide and then pull them out. And then your liver and all that breaks it down, and then it becomes like stool, and then you pass it out that way. But it's just pretty cool how I struggled 2 years, and it makes a lot of sense too, because whenever you put the urine back in, whatever your body needs healing with at that moment, it'll heal you. So like I had breathing issues for 2 years. I was gasping for air. That was the main thing that was freaking me out. And then the pain in my leg. And then when I drank the urine, I noticed that I was able to breathe again, because that was the first thing, I guess, that my body needed healing from.
Mm.
Right. And so it went in and it started targeting my lungs, and it started targeting my like heart and everything. Like, I don't have any chest pains. I don't have any of the like weird tingle, like all these symptoms have gone away. Now, if I do have wheat, sugar, or dairy, I am active, like I am triggering whatever is still inside my body. Because there are probably people out there who will say that they're cured by using urine therapy, but I like who are vaccinated, like with the COVID shots, anyways. But for me, I don't think I will ever be fully cured from anything, because I think that we're always going to be constantly poisoned. And I had a lot of poisons growing up. Like, yes, I'm a high school dropout, but I'm also a recovering drug addict as well. I've had a lot of bad foods in my past. Like, we've grown up, like in my city anyways, in my family, we grow up with like Kraft Dinner and hot dogs and hamburgers, and it wasn't what I am doing now. Like, I'm outside picking plants and coming in and making foods now. I'm very strict. I read labels. I do my research on what does this mean? What is it doing to the body? And it wasn't like that back when I was a kid. So I realized that I've been poisoned all my life, and we're going to be poisoned all of our lives. So I'm not going to be 100% cured from anything, but I'm healing, and I don't feel like I'm shutting down anymore. Like, I felt like I was an empty walking corpse for 2 years, and now I finally feel human again. I feel alive. I feel like there's finally hope again during this dark time. And like I said, like, the physical part of me is healing, but the mental part of me, it's going to take me a long time, just because, you know, I was dying. And it's just, I saw a quote the other day trying to tell people what's going on right now. It's like running into a burning building and you see that everything is on fire and you're telling your loved ones to come out and telling them that the house is on fire and they can see that the house is on fire, but yet they're hitting you and trying to push you away because they need evidence.
Mm-hmm.
But like the evidence is all around, you're just not seeing it, right? And there are people out there who are suffering, and I just thought that I will take this story and the thing. I've been through a lot of trauma since birth, actually. Like my story, I was born in a very dysfunctional family, and I think it was my job to kind of break the mold and break out of the matrix. And that's why, like, I'm stubborn. That's why my path has been so hard, is because I'm supposed to break free from it. And I'm nothing like my family, and I'm really proud that, I'm here today, and I did it all myself. And a lot of people, yes, a lot of people have died. A lot of people have committed suicide because of this shot and because of not being believed, because of just suffering and not knowing what the hell is going on with their body. And it literally, the poisons in this shot literally do make you want to kill yourself. I don't know, like I do know some of the ingredients in these vaccines and what it does to the brain, but it's just I could not let anybody else suffer. So that's why I do all these podcasts, I do all these interviews, because I want to give people hope that they can heal. It may seem dark, it may seem very painful and lonely, but you just got to keep fighting, because there are ways. Like, I knew that these psychopaths couldn't have done this without an antidote.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They had to have some, and I knew this even before learning about urine therapy. I told my partner in the kitchen that there has to be something, and I'm not going to stop researching and finding it until I actually do get it in my hand. And I tried 100 different ways. I researched, and then this urine is the ultimate, like, people in Christianity and religion call about like the holy water. This is the holy water. Like, this is the water that should be known about everybody, because it has everything that you need in it to
Mm-hmm.
keep you alive. And it's
Yeah.
also like possibly a way to be immortal and anti-ager and everything. Like, I don't look like I'm 35. I feel younger. I feel I'm getting healthier now. Like, I'm getting abs, losing weight, gaining muscle. Like, I don't know, it's very different now that I'm using urine therapy.
Yeah, there's definitely like a spiritual component to all of this. And I know that people that are just listening to this for the first time are thinking, what the hell are you talking about? And because we've been conditioned to find things outside of us to heal. And this is basically the premise of saying, like, God made something within us that's that amazing that it's the antidote to anything that we're needing. And if you look in history at some of the people, like the guys who were stuck in the underground cave in Chile, like for I can't even remember 21 days, they survived by drinking their own urine. The guy that was stuck in the rocks in between those two rocks and he lost his arm, he survived on his urine. Like, there's many accounts of people drinking their own urine in order to survive. And you're right, we were all born drinking our own urine, our mother's urine, until our kidneys had developed. And imagine that God created something that is that accessible. Because I remember I was doing with Darko Valchuk, the saltwater cleanses. So you use distilled water and a little bit of sea salt, and you do 3 liters a
Mhm.
day. And I remember being in Mexico and watching the Mexicans floating in the water every Sunday. They come and they're floating with their families in the water and thinking how beautiful their skin is and how healthy they are and how they're just sucking up the salt. Because, we're also told that salt is bad, which I don't believe. And so, and
Actually,
that's what they're,
salt saved my life before urine, to be
right?
honest. Like, I
Yeah.
literally have to carry around, for the last 3 years, I have a bottle of Celtic sea salt that
Hmm.
I have to carry around with me in my book bag everywhere, because with my dysautonomia, my blood pressure can drop super freaking fast. And
Mm-hmm.
especially like if I'm, walking or hiking a lot and sweating and urinating, like before using the urine therapy, my salt was my go-to. Now I still have it every now and then, but I'm mostly using the urine. But yeah, no, we've been lied to about salt. Like my mom cut out the table salt. Now,
Yeah.
table salt is not good. It's
Yeah.
actually 1/3 salt, 1/3 sand, and 1/3 glass. That's why it causes high blood pressure, because it has glass in it and it's literally cutting your blood vessels from the inside out,
Yeah.
right? So then you get high blood pressure and all this stuff. But Celtic sea salt has 82 minerals in
Mm-hmm.
it, and our bodies need 102 minerals a day in order to function properly.
Mm-hmm.
So salt literally, like whenever I felt like I was going to pass out or I felt like my hands were tingly, I'd scream to my boys, like, go get me my salt. I need my salt, right? And
Mm-hmm.
now I'm able to understand that it was my electrolytes and the
Mm-hmm.
salt in my body that was unbalanced. So now I'm able to keep it balanced because I understand it. But at first I was like, okay, I need the salt, I need it, like, but now I'm able to keep my electrolytes fine, so I don't feel like I'm going to pass out throughout the day anymore.
Yeah, 100%. And it's another thing that we've been lied to about. So, when you're on this journey, it's like I call it unschooling the mind, really. That's
Mhm.
what we're doing. And a lot of times it starts with a health crisis where people are like willing to receive new information because nothing else is working, which is, in your case. And so basically, so you're injured, you try this, you've changed your life around, you're sharing your story. People can do their own research. I'll put a bunch of links in the show notes to different books that you can read. You definitely can go onto Rumble and just look up urine therapy and see other podcasts about it. There's not much when you think about, but it's funny when something drops in the collective. Like we've been talking about this in our community for maybe 4 or 5 months, and people have been doing research and we've been discussing it. And then all of a sudden, Alex Zek comes out with it. All of a sudden, the guy who wrote the Bulletproof Coffee, he's come in, speaking about it. It's like, oh, okay, this is like dropping in the collective right now. So I want to wrap up on the podcast and then open into our private Q&A. What is a message? What is the message that you really want people to hear that are hearing this for the first time or potentially injured, or have loved ones that are? What is it that you'd like to share and close with?
Basically, that I want people to understand is that the answers are not outside of us. None of them are. Whether you're talking about in spirituality form or, health, anything, it's all within you. And a lot of people are out trying to find answers from this doctor or that source. But to be honest, the information is always within. You just have to trust yourself, and you have to listen to that internal voice that is always speaking to you. And if you have health issues, it's not all doom and gloom. Our bodies are the most miraculous inventions on this earth, I find. And God created us to heal ourselves. Like our bodies are designed to heal ourselves if given the right environment. And instead of having the negative thoughts at the beginning of my vaccine injury, I was doom and gloom all the time. I thought that I was going to die. I thought that I was going to end up in a wheelchair, that I was going to lose mobility to my leg. And that kept me in a state of fight or flight on a daily basis. And I think that contributed to a lot of my suffering as well at the beginning. And then I realized that the answers were within me and that I have to trust myself and I have to start thinking positively, because healing starts with the mind. You have to believe first before it can be perceived in reality. And these are a lot of lessons and blessings that I've actually learned along my vaccine injury and this journey, is that we are so important. And that's why they're trying to keep us silent. They're trying to keep us brainwashed. They're trying to keep us dumbed down and sick and trying to kill ourselves or kill each other because they don't want us to know how powerful we actually are. And I spent so much time and thousands of dollars trying to do this supplement and that supplement. But all along, the answers were inside of me. And most of the healing has been done for free. Sun, getting out in the sun, grounding my bare feet in the grass, drinking my own urine, picking the plants outside and coming home and making a tea. Like these things are free. And then there's sound frequencies. Like, don't get like, there's so much that I've learned about the human body and how we are so amazing. And I don't want anybody to forget that. I just want people to understand that you can heal yourself. You don't need a doctor. You don't need a prescription. All you need is to believe in yourself and just do the research.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for being such a lighthouse in these dark times, in a world that is taught to self-hate. This entire premise of, urine therapy is about self-love and, accepting the self, that the self could produce the medicine that one needs, and being open to letting go of all of the beliefs that we've, been bestowed upon us, that we are inadequate, that we are imperfect, that we are sinners, that we are all of this, and maybe that's what this is all about, that we are so amazing. We are so powerful. And this is why they try so desperately to keep knowledge from us and keep us from knowing this and keep us in a society that is, basically a death cult and that thrives off of all the poisons that are surrounded by us.
Well, if we're
So,
weak, then they can take control of us, right? It's easy
yes,
to take control over a weak population.
that's
And that
right.
it breaks my heart. Like that's why I keep trying, is because I see how sick my family is still, and I'm breaking that mold. And I know that we've been sick for all of our lives, and I want to teach my children and the future generations a different way of living. So
Hmm.
I'm grateful. Like at the beginning, I thought this was the worst thing that could ever happen to me. But looking back now, I think it's a blessing in disguise because I've learned so much about myself, about nature, and about God and how the world actually works. And yeah, I told
Yeah.
my partner 2 years ago in the kitchen, if I can help one person with detoxing or healing from this bioweapon, then I know that my purpose is done. Like I feel fulfilled and satisfied that way if I could just help one. And now I've helped like over 100 or more, and
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
nice. And I keep helping more and more because I keep getting more and more messages into my Facebook, like, oh, I've seen you here, I've seen you there. Can you give me more information? And it's nice to know that I'm needed and I'm wanted and I love helping others. So I've
Yeah.
turned this pain into a purpose.
Amen. Yeah. Well, we are here to serve. And thank you for hearing the calling and thank you for your bravery. So I will have in the show notes the ways to contact you as well for anybody that's interested or wants to dive deeper into this topic. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being with us today, Josephine.
Thank you.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode. Wow. There's so much. We could have gone on for hours. Take a look in the show notes. You can start doing your own research. The Water of Life, the treatise from John Armstrong, is a great place to start. Your Own Perfect Medicine is also another good one. There is lots of information that has been hidden on this ancient old practice. So stay with an open mind, and I hope it helps somebody out there. If you are looking for more support or connection and need a tribe of people who don't think you're crazy, who don't want to co parent with globalists, but understand that to unschool their kids, they need to unschool their own mind, we have the community for you. I am going to be launching a free portion of our app coming in August. So you will be able to come in there, check out some sample content, kind of see what we do here at Unschooling the Mind Academy. But we do have live coaches and not just myself. We also have unschooling and human design paired coaching classes. We have night classes, day classes. This is an international private member association for parents who are willing to make shifts in their lives, question the beliefs and myths and programming that has been bestowed upon them, and have the courage to make the changes and heal generational trauma, quite frankly. So if that is you, head over to my website, www.tashafishman.com, and you can check out more information about that. And we'll see you again. Thanks for showing up.